But I think what we're missing is how much admin and office work in business, finance, computer math, architecture and engineering, the legal, all those different elements are present in construction. Essentially, the way that I've been articulating it is automating the white collar work you hate so you can go build.
Well, we're super excited for the podcast today. Welcome, Nathan.
Good to be back.
Yeah, it's, returning guest. It's been a minute since we've had a returning guest, so it's good to have you on.
Yep. It's a lot is happening in the world these days, and we could go as broad or as narrow as you want.
Well, maybe, from your side, it's interesting you bring that up because I believe we touched on this on our last episode, and I know you did on Modern Craftsman, Special Forces. Do you still keep a lot of tabs on what's happened with the military and like friends and colleagues that are still involved?
Yeah, I think we still live in Fort Bragg's back door, essentially, or backyard. And our community has a lot of military presence, and then definitely guys at church still active duty. So run into. I'm kind of the old guy now. It's hard to. I talked to a younger guy that showed up at church recently, and he's special forces and doing all his training and stuff. And I realized he joined the military after I got out. So I've been out almost 10 years now, and it's kind of weird to be talking to guys that weren't even in the military when I was in. Because you got guys that are working their way up. So I would say I'm losing touch. I think it's for me personally, it's nice to not be on the calling card for what's going on. Not to get too political about it or whatever. And I don't. I'm not in the room where it's happening anymore. But it is very nice to be on the be able to stay at home, I guess, instead of disappear and do things. So, but yeah, it's a good perspective to be around guys that are still having to go and travel. And I think we can think that when there's not a war going on, there aren't, the military and what they're doing can kind of fade to the background for us. But a lot of the guys are just always training, always gone, always staying ready for when the mission is needs the skills, and can't forget that families are making that sacrifice, and we do have wives that are. I actually talked to a wife at church this last week. I said, hey, noticed that you're wrangling the kiddos by yourself. You need anything? And she said no. And I said, well, would you tell me if you didn't, or if you did? And she said, I'm trying to be better about that. But yeah, it just, whether it's active in supporting what's going on or training, it's a difficult lifestyle. And I think we can start to think life is kind of tough as a general contractor, but at least, generally we're sleeping in our own beds at night. And my go-to phrase is, well, at least I'm not getting shot at. So generally low chance of that happening. And is if a client's having a bad day or somebody makes a mistake, generally the stakes are much lower than they were in the military. And that mindset has always been very helpful in keeping the perspective.
I love that you started there, Nathan. The reason I bring it up is because, how that applies to business. I think so many times, I even look back at my career, this entrepreneurship journey, the last 13 years. And years back, things would go sideways, or maybe we'd make a mistake, or clients frustrated. There's a lot of different angles of running a business, right? Maybe at times we didn't have the business development or sales. When you look back, and I was just speaking to someone about this, and, at that time of life, it was like my whole world's crumbling. It's like everything's falling apart. And so much of life is about perspective. I think a lot of us get stuck in just our worldview of things that are happening to us. And what, as you, like for you, Nathan, you may, expatriate. I mean, you've completed your military service. Thank you for that. But you have peers, you see people going through this and dealing with this where we actually have conflict right now. And you think about the toll it takes, and really not that the military is the same as sports, but what's funny is, a lot of us as fans of sports teams are like, oh, I want this player. He just got traded. All right. Who cares? He wasn't performing for our team. Get him out of town. But on the backside, you have families, you have kids in school, you have a wife. I mean, they're getting uprooted. Now they're moving from Chicago to Phoenix, or, Phoenix to New York, and, maybe working from afar. I mean, there's, so many things just look on paper, or maybe we turn on the news or something without really understanding the complexities behind it. And that's why, I just think so much of life is just, there's a lot of things that we can all be frustrated about. Maybe our business isn't where it is. Maybe our life isn't where it is. But I think in some ways, to your point, there's things to be grateful for at the same time.
Yeah. And I guess, bringing it to business too, the world is very connected now. And so, we see how quickly the cost of gas prices can change, or, during COVID, the logistical constraints that can come in. And, we always would do contingency planning in the military when the plan doesn't go right, just like so Mike Tyson, until you get punched in the mouth, or,
right.
The military axiom, the best plan only survive first contact with, up until first contact with the enemy. And then it's all off from there. So the contingency planning, I think it's a good opportunity to assess kind of, we can also start to think the economic times will always be good. We can start to become complacent, maybe even not knowing our, stuff that you guys taught us at the coalition, knowing your overhead, knowing your margins, knowing what stuff costs, having that kind of dialed in. And it can, especially if you're running a big operation, it can get out of hand pretty quickly if you're not tracking that stuff. And even just at a personal level and family level too, kind of taking the freedoms that we enjoy and the low cost of goods and services, and the, have it now in 30 seconds kind of economy. It's a good chance to kind of rethink and do contingency planning.
It's interesting you bring that up, because it doesn't matter if you're lump sum, it's something to really pay attention to, right? If you're like a GMP, and even cost plus, because you may be protected cost plus, but even if your protected clients aren't too happy when they see changes, you look at fuel, I could have an excavator with the fuel changes. I mean, they could burn, an extra $600 a day in fuel right now to what they had originally bid, a month ago, 2 months ago. You multiply that over, a 2-month site work, 3-month site work excavation job. I mean, this is $3,000 a week. I mean, this is, $50,000 in just fuel, right? That client could be paying that they maybe were hoping to buy an oven for. So it's like, it's just one of those things that, to your point, like you really have to be aware of how your business is operating things. Cause, I love how you brought that in, because the reality is it's so interconnected. This conflict, you see how it's impacting Egypt and other countries, and how it puts them in a really tough spot. And Europe, us, I mean, we're all interconnected. There's going to be changes, we don't know, good or bad, that are going to be happening. And so it's really important that we have a good grasp on business and outlook, and, family, and some of those priorities, So what's new with you, Nathan? I mean, since we last spoke, you said you've been spending time in the Matrix.
Yeah, I guess since we last spoke, I think I still was living in the bus.
I think so.
And so you can see I'm at least in a house now. I think
too. You got some drywall tape on the wall.
Yeah, even I got the paint over here in a couple gallons stacked against the wall. I've had that there for about 6 months probably. I'll get the backdrop for the podcast. Third visit, I'll be more polished, but
so you're a true cobbler. Your shoes have holes in them. A true cobbler.
I mean, my wife is not my wife is not too much of a fan of that joke because people will ask us all the time, "Is the house finished?" And I'm just like, you got to ask me that question right in front of her, don't you? You know, I put her in a bus for 3.5 years, and then now she's in a partially finished house. But life's moving fast, and even just doing what I've been doing with AI and trying to push kind of the limits on that, and which is kind of why I reached out to you. There's been my dad owned a software company, so growing up I wrote code. I got a C compiler when I was I think 10 for my 10-year-old Christmas. Like one of the nerdiest videos I've ever sseen, if anybody ever, is me opening up a compiler and how excited I was about that. And I wrote code. I got a job working for my dad's software company when I was 14, and uh, was doing very low level stuff. Like they had a lot going on, but I was writing code. I was in the office. I did their networking. I did some of their telephone system stuff. Basically, low man on the totem pole, but I got exposure to that, and I always appreciated that experience. But I also was kind of like, I literally was getting carpal tunnel from typing when I was a teenager, essentially, so much. And I was like, I want to be outside. I want to do things. So I joined the military, and we, my dad started a software company, but was also adding on to the house. So we were doing construction, coding, a bunch of that stuff. And I used it in the military. There was a lot of digital security stuff. There was intelligence and targeting stuff, and just military has radios, and even more so, you see the videos of the headsets and the dash that they have on their chest of stuff, and awareness of the battlefield and things. So some of that stuff was already pretty in being used before I got out. But so I appreciated the technical aptitude in the military, and then getting out in construction, I've always tried to push software to the extent that I could, because I understood coding, I understood software, and I there's always this struggle. I think especially for the smaller guy who doesn't have a couple people in the back office and run an admin, and the vast majority of construction companies, my understanding is about 80% of construction companies are 5 or less people. And so and a lot of times that's maybe the business owner's wife, or, somebody related that's running the phone and email and things like that. And, so, uh, you know, I, I didn't get onto a project management software until I hired a guy that helped me onboard it, because you're kind of behind the power curve trying to run jobs, trying to communicate with people, and it's a system. If you take the time and you implement the system and you train your people how to use it, it's going to work better for you. But you have to carve out that time to build those systems. And one of the things that I felt like was pretty revolutionary, I think it was first or third week of January 2026. I follow a lot of technology and AI related accounts on social media, and I started seeing stuff about agents, essentially, which most people who use the AI, the normal user is interacting with AI in a chat bot type situation, where they're in Chat GPT's application, they're entering some stuff, and then Chat GPT is returning information. So it's going out, it's searching a large language model. It's a bunch of data. All these companies are in kind of an arms race, and you're querying this really large database and getting back pretty intelligent responses. But how an agent is different, and I basically didn't even understand most of this stuff until a couple weeks ago. An agent is able to kind of take that information, go and look at the language models, but then has the ability, which I call just the muscle, to go and do an action on your behalf, and is kind of intelligent. So it has a lot more of the feel to an employee or a human being, because it has that autonomy or that muscle and ability to go out and do a task for you. And so essentially the kind of the thing that shook the market. It's called OpenClaw, which is an open source kind of agent framework, and it allows you to connect it to ChatGPT or Claude, or Grok or Gemini or different models. You basically give it an API key, which is essentially like a calling card for those of us that remember payphones and things like that. So it's a calling card that gives you credit to use these large language models. Generally, they don't let you use your subscription because a bot now or an agent is able to do that autonomously and fast. So it can go through and do a lot of heavy lifting quickly and burn, in a way that will kind of overload the server. So they make you pay kind of as you go. It's like a taxi, because they're so effective at doing large amounts of tasks and things like that. And essentially, I just been blown away by what it could do. So for me personally, I might even see if am I able to share? Does that mess your guys up if I share a screen?
No.
Let me see if I can get this. I kind of have a little. I've been trying to figure out how to graphically display this and explain it.
Now, as you're pulling this out for those listening, it's interesting because a lot of people have integrated AI. To your point, maybe in marketing. Here, I'm adding it in. Okay, we have it in there now. And so from like a personal assistant or an employee, where now you're outsourcing work. I mean, essentially, that's what Nathan is speaking about. So you have it pulled up here. So walk us through for some people have video and some will be listening, but.
Yeah. So essentially, I've have this kind of graphic, which is in the center. You see is essentially the OpenClaw, which is this AI gateway. And what I think makes this particular technology unique is that it has memory. So in the wherever it's running, where you can run on a Mac Mini locally in your office, so it's run on your own hardware, or you can run it on a virtual server. And so what it essentially does is it saves your prompts in memory. So it has these kind of text files that it can go back and reference. So from ChatGPT or Claude, if you've got these different prompt windows open, you'll find that if you jump between different chat windows, or you come back weeks later and say, hey, let's go back over those financials, it won't remember, or it won't have that memory that normally it would have had kind of when you first started the project. And kind of the way that I look at it is these AI companies aren't cloud storage as well. You use Google Drive, you use OneDrive to do your storage. And so when you send those files to ChatGPT or Claude, they are using the data, but they have to purge it. If you think all these people send in prompts and stuff, they're not trying to continue to store all this data for you. So the agent essentially is connected to your files. So I have it connected to my OneDrive, my Google Drive. It can go out and read those files. It has memory in text, so about my business, about me, about which tools I use and how my business runs, and I can actually tell it, hey, save that underneath this particular project or this thing, and it goes. And so I can, if it starts to get lost, I can point the agent, hey, go back and read about Broad Street job. Then you can also interact with your different. It can go in. It can search the web. It's connected to my calendar. The interface that I use, you can see kind of down here, is Telegram. So but it can do multiple messaging apps. So I just have it in text. Have you ever used the Telegram app? Do you know that app?
I don't know. Walk me through it.
Well, if you have your phone on you,
I do.
So I actually built an agent for you. At some point, we'll see if it works or not. And then
great.
Maybe
we'll still on my info now. This is perfect.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too is ultimately this is a new platform, and so I'm trying to work out how it's just been so powerful for me, because essentially where I'm at right now is I'm a singleton. I got My son's working for me as he's 17. I have three sons. But I had a virtual assistant that had on staff. I had a project manager. I have a project coordinator that she does other stuff as well. She's not full time with me, but it generally have a sub network, and then I'm running everything myself. So this has essentially allowed me to run, kind of emulate or do the majority of what my virtual assistant was doing. So reads my email, and essentially it's got a pretty sophisticated spam filter now too. So going through and just I have it move all my email into a junk folder now. It's like if it seems like it's spam, just put it in junk. I don't want to see it. I'll look at it every 30 days and just wipe out stuff. But I'm sick and tired of getting sold stuff by people using AI to auto send emails to a bunch of people, and they're generic copy, and I don't want to see it. So it's actually have, this is kind of the workflow that it does. So I have a custom built CRM that it actually helped me write. So it lives on my website. And when they hit submit the form, it sees the inquiry come in, and then it goes out and does pre-screening research for me. So I've set it up, since it can search the internet, it can tie into several different databases that have professional data on people. It finds the lot, the square footage, is it in my coverage area, gives me all their social media handles, and confirms that, like I said, it's in my area, and then creates the job entry, messages me, hey, we got a new inquiry, and here's your brief. And essentially I can say, looks good, send a follow-up email, and it'll just say, does this look good? And I don't want, I as a singleton operator, I'm trying to respond to people quickly. Mm-hmm. And when I get a lead come in, I have, I want to give that personal touch, but I basically allows me to automate that front end. When they click submit, do some research, give me some educated info on the client. I have their number, and so I do a quick read of what the research it did. I know this is a good location, the neighborhood, the client, and then I'm able to basically within a few minutes call them back and know a little bit more about them and do that personal touch. But it'll essentially gives me a coaching sales call. I can have them, hey, follow up on email instead if I'm not ready to do it, or and it's custom to that person that submitted. It also can go to my website and serve up links to similar projects. So, hey, if they selected bathroom remodel, it knows it actually, I know I'm kind of going a little bit crazy, but that's kind of how my journey has been too. It manages my whole website now. So it knows all my pages, all my projects that are loaded in there. It knows the links to them. So it can go out and pull those particular projects that match kind of what their interests were and send them a custom email that, hey, here's the last 2 bathrooms that we've done. Here's the last 2 kitchens. But essentially, you can train.
What I want to ask you real quick, Nathan, if I interrupt, because there's 2 parts to this direction I want to go. So the first thing is, if I'm doing an inquiry on your website, is this an AI agent that's communicating with me as I'm filling out the inquiry? So I'm putting, square, like, because typically on some inquiries, however you have it built on your website, that's going to drive to your email, could be, look, Nathan, I want to build a custom home. It's going to be, I can pick, $700 a square foot. I may not know much about the building process, and so I may not have answers as a homeowner. How specific are these inquiries for these people as they're typing in? Do you have a really robust CRM system where they're putting in a bunch of qualifications? If it's a kitchen, if it's a remodel, location, square footage, budget they want, like how is it getting that information from that side? And then we'll talk about how, it's processing from your side. But
yeah, so from the client side, for me personally, right now, it's just a regular form that says name, email, address of the project, type of project. And essentially for me, I used to have a long inbound lead form, and I put a bunch of friction. Because I was like, if this person's ready to build, I'm a high end remodeling guy. If they want the remodel, they'll go through all 12 things or whatever and give me the answers that I need. And I had a business coach that's like, Nate, I love your military efficiency, but you gotta give the personal touch here,
Yeah.
and you gotta create these touch points with these people, and you gotta build trust, and you gotta sell them, and you may actually be missing out on jobs because, especially if they're a high net worth person and there's a lot of friction to get you, uh, you might lose them. I mean, not you, because you have a good referral network or something like that. Like it, and you're coming, the type of projects you're building, as you get more experience, they're going to go through that friction. But for me, I am essentially tried to lower the friction on the front end, and then have the agent in the background doing some of the work. And then if the address is out of my coverage area, if the value of the home or the size of the project or things just don't work, I can easily just tell the agent, hey, tell them that's not a good fit. And they'll draft an email and reject, essentially, but they're still getting a response. Everybody who hits submit too, because that's the other side of it, is you don't know who these people that are inquiring, whether they feel. I want everyone who touches my brand to leave better, and in a sense. So if it's not a project that we have a working with general contractor guide, hey, unfortunately, this isn't a project we can do, but here's our guide for finding general contractors, and we wish you all the best, kind of thing. But you can certainly build a chat bot essentially in your web page that is essentially like a customer service rep that's taking them through the steps and program that. And an agent can help you do that. But essentially, even those bubbles inside your website are still a bot. There's still a pretty limited amount of information that you have there that it's pulling from. You're taking your company data, you're pairing it with AI, and it's more sophisticated than a web form. And I have plans to kind of do that, because I guess also what I want to do is, sometimes there's a client that isn't a tech person. They like to do a phone call. They like to leave a voicemail. They like to have somebody call them back. And this is totally where you are with your business. Are you trying to, do you want to work for that job? And we're in a smaller market. Our county has 100,000 people. So, I'm the volume of inbound leads that I'm getting is different than in a major metropolitan area. I'm willing to build some of these systems to interact with people. And essentially what I'm trying to do is make it where I can give the personal touch quicker, and I can graciously reject the people that aren't a fit, but also have them educated a little bit better educated, so that they don't go hire the low bidder that doesn't have insurance or a license or something like that, just because I wasn't a good fit for their job.
It makes sense. So really what you're getting down to, Nathan, is that, anyone any size, metropolitan, rural, doesn't matter. But what's happening is it could be, for lack of a better word, a basic form, a pretty simple form for someone to fill out. It doesn't have to be super complex. AI is going to do its own analysis based on limited information, and they're going to come back to you and say, okay, you have someone want to do a kitchen or bathroom remodel, and on its own, it's going to pull up the address, so it could see what the home sold for, what they bought it for. It may know which your clients typically spend on a remodel, and so they could say, hey, maybe it's really weird, but essentially it's doing a lot of background information that it's sending to you without the client knowing this, and it puts you in a position where you can be like, hey, this may be a viable lead. Or if the client bought this house, say, for 150 grand in a rural area, do they really want to put 150 grand cash into it? Is it worth me going and doing this? And so essentially it's getting down to a point where you can make a conscious decision without having to do all this vetting and look it up and find social media and, call it, lack of a better word, a background check on this client and see how valid this inquiry is.
And so, if the thing about the agent side of it is that it has this memory, and it has it's essentially what this is called is, let me actually go and have the, so essentially, this is a little bit higher level. What it's doing is, so you have, everybody has different SaaS solutions that they're using. And what the agent can do is kind of sit on top of that. So I know you use Builder Trend. I think you guys said you use Bluebeam, things like that. A lot of these programs have an API that allow other programs to communicate. That's how it can sync to your bookkeeping. That's how it can push to different things. So the agent essentially can interact with all these different programs as well. So not like the form is kind of a really kind of low level way that it's interacting, but the other side of it is it can as much access as you want to give, it can, and you can essentially, the way that you can treat it as like an employee. So you can give it view credentials, not delete and write, so it can go and pull reports for you. Or you can say, hey, I want it to even, when I send you a message, hey, generate the next draw invoice, it can go in and do some very complex tasks in a lot of these programs. And so I guess the thing that is the most disruptive about this is there are a lot of people that are taking agents and taking AI and writing their own custom applications, and they're building basically a software platform for them that works with exactly what they want to do, and is allowing them to essentially not use anyone else's software, because this is what large companies are, they're interacting with current people and saying, what are the features you need, but how long does it take to get that feature added and updated? Because the software is very but the other side of it is you got the security and you got the stability of it and you got the team that understands it. So there's definitely, a drywall guy or a painter or a general contractor is not going to always want to write their own new SaaS applications to run it. But what I have found to be the most powerful at this point is I already have, Outlook, I already have OneDrive, I have QuickBooks, I have project management software. It can go in and it can read that, and I'm texting it like I'm texting assistant. So on Telegram, hey, can you go in and pull the job and send me the PDF of this? And it can go out and just serve up the PDF to me and messages it to me. Hey, give me the selections document from, whatever job. And, coming off of a consultation, if you're recording, because I've been trying to do a lot more of recording meetings, to say, hey, look, this we're recording them. We're trying to transcribe. We want to be really thorough. Dropping those transcripts in so it can go back and search the meeting. Hey, what did we say about this? And the agent basically, because it has access to all this, because it has memory of your business and what you're doing and where your files kind of live, and then it's tied to this really smart brain. It's that pairing of the memory, the brains, and then the actual muscle of an agent to go out and do these tasks. And essentially, it's not gonna. I mean, my joke with I say to my agent, it's like people are saying you're going to take over the world and you can't even do this simple thing. It's still a computer. It still needs instruction. It still needs a human in the loop. But the ability to tie it into your own business's data and let it search your documents, pull stuff up. It can, I mean, my contract generation now is done with an agent. So I have my CRM. I'm done with the scope. We've did the design, and they say, okay, here's the selections are in Excel, the links to the different things. It goes out and pulls the images. It builds a selections and document for me. It does the draw schedule, fills in the client's info, essentially with just a single, we've gone through design. I filled out certain documents in our structure, but it goes and builds all that custom without, in a single prompt, essentially.
So are you using, the email that you, what's that?
Sorry, delay.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, you're good, Nathan. I was going to say, so early on, you were talking about email. I understand the junk side. It has a junk filter. It's pre-reading messages. We've seen even with the iPhone, right? Give you a summary of the text, before you click on it. Do you have a respondent
Mm-hmm.
to emails yet, or is this more just categorizing it and like giving you a synopsis of it, so that you can understand, like,
Well,
the efficiency of what you have to
the
address?
first time I tried to use it, it actually sent my design agreement to the clients without me proofreading it. And it was a smaller
Oh, that's
job,
like a
and it
real
was like, this is a
employee.
good.
I mean, a real employee would do
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. And so I basically was like, hey, draft the email based on, it had the AI transcription of our initial design meeting. So I was like, hey, let's generate the uh, feasibility and design agreement to, and this and the scope, and the draft scope of work that we're going to be designing, and then attach those. So I saw those documents, they looked good. We worked together with the agent to draft that based on the meeting. I made a couple updates manually. I said, all right, draft this an email to the clients and attach the documents. And so it drafted it, attached the emails, and sent it. And then I was like, whoa, I had already done the reviewed the documents, so I knew that they were good. And the next step was, I said draft it, and it was like, oh my goodness, I violated your trust. I'm so sorry. And I was like, all right, hard rule, and we need to do this for now, is nothing gets external to clients until I review it, which, like you said, just with an employee, like you
Yeah.
have to, my virtual assistant, I had to do that. Say, hey, you have we have a shared sales box, or she had access to my inbox, it's in the draft folder. I'll review it. I'll hit send. And so I still have that hard rule in place. If it's going external to clients, I review it. And mostly because, um, there is still something about an AI written email that is, you can tell, or it doesn't have the touch that you want it to have, or it messes up. But the reality is I think that the drafts are a good 70% solution for the email, and the fact that it pulls their email addresses and puts it in there, it attaches the documents, whatever. Like, it's for me, I think that it's about getting, even if it's giving you 20% more efficiency with your administrative tasks. And I think everybody starts trying to go with this AI to say, look, it's going to take over everything. I'm not seeing that, even with the models that are so good. I'm still seeing that it's very much a computer. They're messing things up in the sense that it's not understanding the larger context of what it's doing, but it is certainly able to get that efficiency to a 20-30% efficiency level increase, or even just making it is essentially faster, which is efficiency. But the the ability to do that amount of admin, uh, from a text message to an agent, that it can pull the documents, that it can connect all that kind of stuff, is almost more fun to do the admin work. It's like, okay, I'm actually able to sit down and kind of get through a pile of stuff quicker, and then essentially, the agent can be saved as skills. So you can say, hey, this is a contract generation skill. This is so I have the skill that I have is a lead research. So even if I get a voicemail, I can copy that voicemail to the agent, say, hey, they just called me. And now that here's the voicemail transcript that I just got. Do a lead research and create a lead in the CRM for me, because you got these different channels that stuff's coming in. People sending a message on Instagram, people sending a message on Facebook, people leaving a voicemail, texting, emailing. So that ability to kind of say, when that whichever channel that lead's coming in on, create the entry in our CRM and do the lead research and figure out, and the other side of it is, open source on people is pretty scary, especially when it can look at property book records and things like that too. So when it pieces the professional database, those are, you have to pay a couple cents per hit on some of those. Like Apollo, it's a professional data server. So I have that tied in. It can do, true people search, which is a website, and it can kind of pull all this together and get a pretty good piece of. And the other thing, like I had one where I ended up going out on a consult, and this is just a rookie move, but I got a call. It was at a really nice horse community. Is a $2 million house. Hey, we're looking to remodel our attic. Looked at the job, got the information. Okay, this is a great neighborhood. I'm going to go out there. I went out there. It was a renter that was in their apartment above their horse barn. So the actual property owner would probably be the fit, but you and I both know that the renter of the back apartment is not going to be the one pulling the strings on. Hey, I'm renting this, and I'm looking at seeing if my landlord will. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I came back with my agent, already done the research on it. And I said, how did you didn't check that this person owned the property, that this was their actual thing. And so we updated that day, just updated the skill to say, hey, when you search lead research, make sure they own the property, make sure that they're a decision maker. And if they don't, then just flag it for me. Hey, red flag, the name is not on the property deed. And so you just ask that question in the consultation call. And, this particularly is, we've been focusing a lot on the front end and the lead and all that kind of stuff. But there's just, it's essentially can help you learn that process all the way through and help you take the client through. And there's ways to set up where it's, you're using a business text line and it can see all that traffic. So it's at least monitoring everything going in and out. I'm still have a security mind to it too. So I'm treating it a lot like it's an employee. I'm giving it unique permissions and access to certain stuff and keeping it pretty siloed. But there's people that are, opening it up and just letting it run their life, even on the personal side. It's pretty scary.
How have you seen, being a singleton, this is really expansive too, Nathan. You mentioned that this has full capability, not just the front end, but during construction and, post-construction. And we only touched on a few things. Over the course of using and integrating, how have you seen that change, lost time, maybe time that you were spending on admin or emails or front-end things, vetting clients to now to executing?
Yeah, I think that everybody may have their tendency, but I think what I've observed for me and for other business owners that are running smaller operations, you kind of default to, I got to do the work out in the field. I got to move the project along, and the admin is the stuff that you do when you're missing dinner to do admin. You're missing. You're staying up late at night.
Office,
yeah. And so this has been the first time that I felt like I could actually stay on top of admin for the most part. The pile is less menacing to me of the admin that I have to do, because I have a little bit of assistance with it. And my operation again it's not that big, but even just the abilities. So here's an example of a quick thing. So, I went and presented my contract and selections document. I like to do that in person. I like to sit down with hard copies. I like to hand the copy to the spouse, both spouses. I have a copy. We're flipping through it. Let's go through, what are your questions, things like that. They, said, hey, what about this particular plumbing fixture or whatever? Obviously you can't click the link in that paper contract or whatever. So they're like, hey, we'd like to go back through and verify the selections or whatever. And I just basically was able to say, hey, draft an email with all the selection links and where they're coming from. And it was a bathroom remodel. So there's only, 6 to 10 specific things, but it essentially just drafted that, went to the selections document, pulled all the links, and drafted an email and sent. And I basically said, "That's great, send it." And I essentially left the contract presentation and had the email to them 2 minutes later. And so essentially, I'm able to just these admin tasks that you might be like, well, I got to just make myself a note because I'm going to get back to the office and then I'm going to make sure I have to send that email. And then, you hate it, but the client's like, hey, I thought you were going to email me this or whatever. And you're like, shoot. So the ability to just get in the car, hey, they want to know about the selection links for the faucet, and boom, here's all the links in an email. Yep, I clicked a couple, make sure it didn't mess up, but it's copying it straight from a spreadsheet that we use for in the job folder, and I'm able to fire it off to them immediately. And these kinds of things are the things that show that you're organized, that you're following up on tasks. They're not having to remind you, and so I've just, like I said, I've only been using it for, I think I'm probably close to 2 months now, but just the handle that I have on the admin it's uncanny the level I am at with this tool. And I haven't even trained it on everything yet. It's just more like as a fancy search engine that can look up my stuff, my projects, my clients, what we're doing. And it's I haven't even started really getting it built out where every single phase is the skills. And in that works, it's like an employee, very much, but in a sense that when you make that system or you go through the process, say, all right, save that as a skill, it writes it down, it puts it in its memory, and it's got it, and if you want to update the skill or update the step, it's, it's made system development, possible for a singleton.
It's incredible to me. As you think about just ways that we can integrate, when AI, we started hearing about that in construction many years ago. And, yes, there's an element of, how does AI change the way we build homes, right? From, tools, are we going to have robots? Is this something that we can do more efficiently from the labor side? I mean, I think the future will be unknown, but the reality is what most people don't realize to a successful business, to maybe one that's not as successful, right, is the behind the scenes, right? It's the organization, it's the, the integration of technology, it's the responsiveness, it's the, the communication, and where AI is great, as you mentioned. I mean, you are adapting things, Nathan, that are very practical for someone, because what you touched on at the very beginning of the episode is the reality of construction. Very few of us have large companies. These are small businesses, typically, spouse and spouse, husband and wife who are doing this, maybe it's a one man, one woman operator. Maybe you have a couple employees. That's the case for many of my trade partners. That's the case for many of the GCs and remodelers. And so this is something that allows you to, scale in the sense that you can operate very efficiently with your time, even if you have no desire to scale from hiring people. Right? Maybe for you, Nathan, you're like, no, I'm good being a sole operator, a singleton, but I would like maybe to have a lifestyle that I can spend time with my kids, spend time with my family, maybe have more time for vacation. If I'm on vacation, I have someone that's responding and taking care of stuff instead of my phone ringing the whole time I'm at the beach. Where do you see this going? What is the next application for you, with what you're building? How do you see this being an asset to you to save, more time?
Yeah, I think, I pulled up this graph real quick because you were talking about all the different tasks. So this is a graph that Anthropic did on kind of where AI is, what its current coverage is in the red, but then what the blue is kind of what it expects that AI will be able to take over. And if you see, agriculture, construction, installation, repair, production, transportation, it's almost got no penetration. I mean, they're saying that, they're saying that construction, like what a lot of the AI people are talking about is saying, look, all y'all that are using AI are in a bubble, but construction's using like 1%. of constructions using AI
Mm-hmm.
when you draft it out, and then even to what they think it can do is you see it moves out to kind of this ring, but what we see over here is office and admin is almost in the 10 ring here, you know.
Right.
So what I think is the miss is that yes, there's all these gimmicks of the robot hanging drywall, the robot screwing in something, and these engineers and nerds are like AI. I mean, literally the video I saw today was the AI is coming for your job and your girl, and and it's like screwing on a couple of different size bolts in on a table, like no elements, no dirt, no anything like that. And I laugh. I'm like, yeah, great. I was underneath my Suburban changing out a fuel line this weekend, and AI is not doing that anytime soon. But I think, and I think that us blue collar guys will laugh and say, yeah, that's dumb because we're getting that hype, and the engineering companies and the tech people that are in their bubble are talking about all this. But I think what we're missing is how much admin and office work in business finance. You see over here on the almost the 1 o'clock position, computer math, architecture and engineering, the legal, initial review of stuff. All those different elements are present in construction. And so it's not necessarily essentially the way that I've been articulating it is automating the white collar work you hate so you can go build, and do those things. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of this go in the future is just not saying, hey, I'm trying to have it do everything an assistant can do. I'm just trying to have it do 50% of what an assistant can do. And then, the stuff that only I can do, if I can get 5 to 10% more efficient, then that's a win for me. If I can get 30 more minutes in my day, if I can, and that essentially equates to sleep, and family time, working out, things like that. So, I'm looking forward to right now. Most of my AI usage is on the front end because I just kind of started with the knowledge stuff. It respond to leads, help me close these deals, and then we're in. I haven't taken it all the way through build and post construction, but even then, like registering the date we close out construction, help me build a
Warranties, spec
a
books,
service manual
yeah.
with the appliance. Yeah, like all those things being hard coded in a database, and then having it go out and read that and send an email response, or even if you have somebody on your staff, hey, send this particular person, that's our warranty mailbox or whatever, and ping that team on that. And even just the ability, I just had another business guy talk to me. He's like, people don't care how much they want to know how much you care. And I think I said that right. They don't care how much they want to know how much you care. And so that ability to have a machine remind you about something that's important, whether it's an anniversary or a date of your the completion date for a project. But how much if your agent says, hey, it's been a year since final inspection on whatever project. Hey, it's been a year. How's everything holding up? What do we need to do? Anything we need to come back out and check out? Like the kinds of things that it's going to essentially softball to you to then do the human thing that oftentimes is not there. That bandwidth is not there because you're reconciling, trying to build financial reports and things like that this can do for you, or at least give you a 90% solution in minutes. That's just amazing.
You said it perfectly. I mean, when you say it gives you a softball, right? Underhand pitch softball, easy. It's teeing it up for you because your chart that here, what I do love is, yes, construction itself, vertical construction is one thing, but you have legal, office and admin, right? Architecture, engineering, business and finance, the management side, you have education, continuing education, social media. These, and this is what is the complexity of what you and I do every day, Nathan, that yes, buildings are complex, construction's complex, limited labor that's out there, limited, sometimes bottlenecks in supply chain. These are things that are real things that affect us, but so much more of our business is running every single aspect of that operation. And that's why it's really important. You think someone like you who's invested some time, yes, it takes some time behind the scenes to invest in these tools and train it. Like you said, hey, don't send out a contract without me proofreading it. There's going to be cues in there, but as you master those in a way, what's going to happen is you're going to have a back end side. I mean, so much time is wasted. What was this contract? Where is it? What was this spec? What color grout did we pick? And to your point, you can record meeting notes. You can put that in, and it could all be in there in that AI brain that's researching all this stuff and helping you come up with a bunch of strategies to run your business. And it's funny, when you reached out, I was so intrigued, Nathan. I mean, the sad thing is I typically keep these at 60 minutes, and I feel like I could talk to you for 4 hours about this because, it's very valuable. But I think the proof is that one of the true benefits of you coming on is that point specifically. Here you are a singleton, you're a one-man operator, and you have your wife and your children, and this is applicable and efficient for you. How much more could it be for everybody that's even a bigger size?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, essentially, for somebody like you might be able to hand this as a test project for one of your key guys, 1 or 2 echelons down, and just say, and that, I guess that would be the thing that I would say for people is try to figure out how the low hanging fruit, if you will, the 1 or 2 tasks that just make you want to die inside, and you can say, how can you help me do this? If I don't know if you have a second, but I don't know if it'll work, because I literally was like, hey, I'm about to go on this podcast, but you got Telegram right now.
Okay.
Hit if you go like to a new text, and we'll see if it works here.
Okay.
At AFT Brad bot, all lowercase, one word.
Wait, I'm just texting that. I'm texting this.
Yeah, in Telegram.
But in my messages, my iMessage.
Yeah. Did you got the Telegram app? You downloaded it?
Oh, I need to download it. No, I don't have the app. Hold on. As we're doing this. So you're saying, let me go to the App Store here. So Telegram, right?
Yep. So
okay. Got it. Yep. Telegram Messenger.
So this particular agent. Yep.
Okay. It downloads pretty fast.
When you open it.
Got it. Okay, it's open.
You're going to open it, and it's going to send you a text verification just to work on your phone.
I'm putting in my cell phone number. Put in the wrong.
So this is basically like just a secure messaging app, like WhatsApp, like Signal, but it's very developer friendly. So it's able to integrate with the agent.
Select contacts later. Okay. All right. You have no conversations. Okay. So do I do a new message or what?
New message, and just do AFT Brad bot.
I'm typing AFT Brad BOT.
Yep. And then just send hello to it.
Oh, here it is right here. Yeah.
We'll see if it works.
Start.
Just
OpenClaw access not configured. Your Telegram user ID, pairing code. Ask the bot owner to approve with OpenClaw. So I'll have to screenshot this for you later. We'll figure that out. So we'll have to have. We'll have to
there we go. It's that'll be. You can play around with it. If you message it to me, I'll let you know it's up and running.
Okay.
And I basically just said basically the same thing I do to research clients, but just said research this business owner and preload it with information about his business. And so the first time that he messages, just give him an onboarding lesson and ask him how you can help about the business. So
it's incredible.
I literally, it's a little bit under the hood, but if you send me that message, you can email it to me, or I'll I'll text you, and then I'll let you know when it's live, and you can play around with it for a little bit.
Amazing. Well, Nathan, where can our listeners find you?
If they're interested about the blue collar stuff, I basically threw up bluecollaros.com. So that is essentially the page where I got a blog about, basically from day one of what I've been doing. I have a free community where I'm basically just posting, here's what I did with it. We have a couple hundred business owners that are in that right now, just in the last 30 days or so. And so I'm kind of just sharing the journey on that. But then I'm also looking into a concept where we do cohorts, where it's essentially just specifically focused. I think I actually have a cohort link on there. I was working on that this week. But you can join the community for free if you're interested in doing the cohort. I kind of like, even just for my own ability to learn how to use it and be with other business owners that are trying to push it. Anyway, that's where all the AI related content about me that I'm working through is going to be going out at.
It's amazing. Nathan, it's incredible, so informative. I really appreciate making time. Thank you.
Absolutely.